Hello everyone, it's Litsoc. It's Thursday. Unfortunately, we have no Miss Huntley. Sorry, Miss Huntley, but yes, I'm sure you're watching to catch up. She's very busy with preparing Year 11 for the GCSEs with a clinic. Yes, there we go. Someone feels that particular pain. And of course, there's the classics quiz tonight as well, so I'm sure she's prepping for that, and some people around the table. And it's very... we're going to talk about classics today, actually, because Neil Gaiman does allude to classics quite a lot, more than you might think. So, good news, yeah? That's very good news.
Yeah, there's a book that I have read by him that I really enjoy.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Look forward to hearing about it. So, Neil Gaiman. We all love Neil Gaiman, don't we? I think we got big fans around the table who've got lots to say about him. But I'm going to start with a little story regarding Neil Gaiman. Now, Neil Gaiman is very famous. He's a bit of a literary rock star. Loads of people know who he is. He's got millions of followers on Twitter. And Miss Huntley and I... Sorry, what?
And Tumblr.
And Tumblr. I wouldn't know about that. And Miss Huntley and I went to see... This was a few years ago now. We went to the Barbican, and he was doing a sort of performance. It was about the time that Good Omens came out, the first series, on Amazon Prime. And he did readings from Good Omens, accompanied by music. I think he did readings from some of his other things as well. And it was a lot of fun. And he was a surprise guest in the shape of David Tennant. David Tennant, who we were talking about just before the camera started rolling, about Macbeth. Marianne is going to see him on tour because they're reviving Macbeth. And so, yeah, he completely, unexpectedly, randomly showed up and did a reading from Good Omens.
Oh, I've seen
and
that.
It was brilliant. And we were there in person to see it. It was completely... Yeah, it was... they probably showed it somewhere later online. There you go. So yeah, it was on YouTube. Hunt it down, have a look.
Everything's on YouTube.
Everything's on YouTube. If anything was filmed, it will be on YouTube, I'm sure. Right, so now Hannah, don't let me do Miss Huntley and talk for too long. But I'm gonna start off, because I will, if you let me. And I've got my words written down to try and stay focused. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your faith in me. So I'm going to start by talking about Sandman. Anyone know Sandman? If only via yes. Yes, TV series. It's on Netflix.
I love Sandman.
Have you read the graphic novels or seen
I read one of them,
Uh-huh.
and I picked it up afterwards, but I wasn't able to purchase anymore because my mother is...
Careful now, this has been recorded, so don't say anything.
My mother refused to purchase anymore.
Okay.
Because she said, Marianne, you read them too fast. Might have to be an investment.
You mean you've watched
I
them
think
too
you should,
fast?
because they are fantastic. They are, in my opinion, they're his masterpiece, and these are all great books too. But these, to me, are his masterpiece, and I'll try to explain why. I don't apologise for having written this out because I want to make sure I'm doing him justice as much as I can. So why is it his masterpiece? So first of all, it's a seminal work in the graphic novel medium. Now you may remember when I was talking about Cavalier and Clay, remember that one? I was talking about how the main characters in that, they are creating a comic book, how they want to break free of the 9-panel thing and show what comic books can do. That is exactly what these do. So to give you an example, here we go. So yes, we have the conventional 9-panel format there, but look, he's also got a sort of a traditional woodcut fairy tale in the middle of it as well. So again, it's sort of like experimenting with the form. And that rather neatly brings me on to the other main reason why this is his greatest work. It's because of all of the, and Miss Huntley and I are always going on about this, allusions, references, yes? Citing classic literature, classic history, classic myths. Now, there's so many, I can't possibly list them all here, but to give you some examples, from the world of English literature, we got Alice in Wonderland, we got Paradise Lost, we got Shakespeare, which I'll talk about a bit more in a minute. From the world of myth, we have Greek myth, we have Norse myth, we have Egyptian myth, we have other African myths and legends. These two have very, very clearly spotted something classicist, I think, on the cover here. Unless I've got the wrong end of the stick, or Esther says she has. Okay, fine. And also, it draws upon actual history too. Real life notable historical figures appear. Augustus Caesar has a whole story dedicated to him, for instance, as does Jack the Ripper. I could go on and on. King Henry VIII. I could literally go on and on, but I'm not going to. Right. So the basic story. So Marianne is the only one who's seen it. Yeah, the Netflix adaptation. Well, hopefully you will be inspired to after this. Like I said, it's on Netflix. So the basic premise is the protagonist is not a human being. It's not a superhero. It is a dream of the endless. Now, the Endless, they are 7 anthropomorphic personifications of 7 forces that sort of drive our lives. And it's all very alliterative as well. We have got, in order of when they were born, we've got destiny, death, dream, our hero, destruction, desire, despair, and delirium. There you go, all begin with a D. And now dream, obviously, is the lord of the dreaming, where we all go when we go to sleep. We visit his realm because we're all dreaming. And that's hence the moniker of the Sandman. You all know what the Sandman is, yes? The idea of when you sleep, sprinkle sand in your eyes, send you off to sleep. So, now that you know all this, so let's talk about some of those allusions then. Now, last week, as Happy for, we talked about Shakespeare, right? Remember? So here is a William Shakespeare story in which William Shakespeare himself appears, and the story is called A Midsummer Night's Dream, because that is the one that takes front and centre. So, now just to set up, this is volume 3 of the 10 volumes. I think it was in volume 2, Shakespeare makes his first appearance when Dream is in a tavern in the 16th century. Now remember, these guys are endless, so time and space doesn't mean anything, so they can go wherever they want at any time. And so he's in the 16th century in a tavern, and Shakespeare is there, and he is depicted as a sort of, struggling, down on his luck kind of guy who is very much jealous of Christopher Marlowe, his great rival and contemporary, and he can't for the life of him match up to Christopher Marlowe's works. To the point that Shakespeare says out loud, and I'm quoting here, "I would give anything to have Marlowe's gifts, or more than anything to give men dreams that would live on long after I am dead." Now, of course, we all know Shakespeare has very much achieved that feat, yes? And in the Sandman canon, it's because the reason he has done that is because he struck a deal with Dream, our hero, in this, so that he can get precisely that. But with the great power that allows him to wield, he also has a price to pay. Okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. So in this story, Shakespeare is doing the premiere of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and one of the things that he has to pay the price of is writing a play for Dream. Writing 2 plays for Dream. The first one is A Midsummer Night's Dream, and little does he know, as they appear in the field to sort of do their premiere, little do they know that the audience that Dream has brought for them is the actual characters from the mythical fairy realm. So Titania, Oberon, Puck, all of them, they're all there in the audience performing, and Shakespeare and his company, Richard Burbage, etc., are performing. And here we go. I don't know how well you can see this. So Shakespeare comes out to deliver the prologue, and there's his reaction. What? Oh my goodness. And then Dream's like, how's he going to do this? But Shakespeare manages to get himself together, and they do start performing the play. So now the story, it is about Midsummer. It is a tribute to the play Midsummer Night's Dream, which is, one of Shakespeare's greater comedies. But it also is about Shakespeare himself. Shakespeare is kind of like Dream's human counterpart. He's human mirror. And Dream, he's very powerful, but he's also got a lot of responsibility. And there's a price he has to pay for discharging his duties, which I'll talk about again in a minute. So, in the case of Shakespeare, the power is summed up by this quote from Dream. So in this little segment here, we've got one of the creatures from the fairy realm saying to Dream, "We thank you, Shaper, but this diversion, although pleasant, is not true. Things never happened thus." What he's saying is the way that Shakespeare is presenting our lives aren't really how it actually happened. And Dream says, "Oh, but it is true. Things need not have happened to be true. Tales and dreams are the shadow truths that will endure when mere facts are dust and ashes and forgot." If you think of Shakespeare, let's take Macbeth as an example. Now, Macbeth is based on historical facts, but the real Macbeth that's not actually how it went down. The real Macbeth wasn't actually the sinister, devious Machiavellian that he is depicted in Shakespeare's play. But no one actually remembers that. Everyone remembers Shakespeare's version. Okay, Shakespeare's storytelling, dream, myth has it has become almost our fact. So that's what we're talking about. This is the great power he has. His amazing piece of storytelling actually displays what we thought was established fact before. Because all of Shakespeare's plays, pretty much, are based on tracks that were written before. But no one remembers those. Everyone remembers the Shakespeare plays. Yeah? So that's the power of Dream. Okay, but what about the costs? What about responsibility? I've mentioned, okay, so you must write me these 2 plays. But it's also personal cost. So Hamlet appears in this story, and we all know what happened to Hamlet. His son, died, aged 11. Now here it's implied. I will try and find it. Here it's implied that Titania takes a shine to him, and she spirits him off to the fairy realm, and where she and Oberon fight over him. In other words, he's like sort of like a surrogate for the Indian boy, who sort of like fought over in Midsummer Night's Dream. So now, obviously, that is a big price for Shakespeare to lose his son as a price. But of course, you look at what happened in Shakespeare's life after that. Some would say that intense grief fueled his abilities to write the great tragedies, King Lear, Hamlet, etc. later on in his life. So there you go. There's that dynamic. Now, so I said that Shakespeare mirrors Dream himself. Dream, he goes on to become a bit of a tragic hero in The Kindly Ones, which sort of rounds out the stories, and this unfolds in the style of a Greek tragedy. Now, we have classicists around the table. Tell me, classicists, what are some of the classic features and tropes of Greek tragedies?
Everyone dies.
Thank you.
Everyone dies.
A noble man falls.
A nobleman falls. Everyone dies. Anything else? What other things feature?
No marriages.
Think in terms of bigger overarching themes, perhaps.
Power, duplicity. I'm just thinking of Macbeth. That's the.
Think about Greek tragedies in particular. Think of Aeschylus and Sophocles.
Yeah, no.
Sorry?
Control of the gods.
Control of the gods, or
Destiny.
Destiny, yes.
The supernatural.
People going crazy and killing people.
People go.
Oh,
Yeah.
anachronisms.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We'll return to those. So now the story in this. Now this one. So this is a collection of 3 or 4 different stories. This is one big long story, and as you can see, it's a lot longer. The story here is that there's a human character called Lita, and she is accused Dream.
Lita?
Yes, who appears in the net. Yes, that Lita. Sorry, I'm kind of going to give you spoilers now. I apologise. But in her quest, so she thinks that Dream has killed her son, Daniel, and in her quest for vengeance, she cites the Kindly Ones or the Furies or
That's what I spotted.
That's exactly what she spotted. That's exactly what she spotted.
I didn't see
Wait,
the
does this
title.
happen before or after this?
I saw the
This is after what's on Netflix.
Yeah, I saw the
Sorry, I'm getting spoilers here. Yeah, but it's a Greek tragedy, and so she wants to destroy him. Now, actually, he has not killed.
No,
he has. Well, you don't know this. You haven't read
No,
it
I
yet.
don't.
But he has not
knew
killed.
that's a Greek tragedy.
He has not killed his son, but he has killed his own son, who happens to be in this canon, happens to be Orpheus. You all know who Orpheus is? Yes. So he happens to kill Orpheus, and that gives the Furies license to kill him because that is their job, right? They are goddesses of destiny whose job is to punish those who violate what they deem to be divine law. Now tell you two, and all other classes, tell us a bit more about the Kindly Ones or the Furies or the Irenaeus. Am I saying that right? Tell us a bit more about them. How are they depicted?
Yeah, wings.
Generally kind of demon-like.
Demon-like? Yep.
Don't they have
They're often like
Yeah.
presented like as if they have like scissors and there's like
Scissors.
strings.
Yes. And here we go. This is at the end, by the way.
I thought
They're cutting the thread.
That's.
I'm not telling you loads of details.
No. But are the Furies the same as the
As the what?
The Fates hit.
The Furies seek justice, the Fates are just like that.
Because the Fates are the ones who do the cutting of the string.
Well,
Maybe the myth is
Yeah,
Maybe he's connected.
I think they might be a bit of borrowing from both forms. Anyway, here they are depicted.
Neil Gaiman.
That's fine, you're allowed to. Here they are depicted.
Not in the presence of me.
Of course you can. No one's infallible, including Neil Gaiman. They're depicted in using the triple goddess archetype of the maiden, the crone, and the mother. Thank
That's
you.
also sort of like Hecate, who had
Yes.
the 3 parts.
Another Macbeth shirt out there. Yeah.
Or just general.
Yeah.
Also,
The rule of 3. Right. So I've kind of sorry that I've spoiled what happens. But to talk about those Greek tropes, so he is a noble hero, but he is also very flawed. You know, the tragic flaw. Shakespeare uses it as well. His flaws are that he's, as you know, he can come across as quite cold. He's very proud. He's very inflexible. He's quite thin-skinned and sensitive, especially if he thinks that he's been done wrong by. Someone mentioned destiny. I think it was Esther. So in this case, destiny is the eldest of the endless, but also, Dream. He can't escape his fate and destiny. It is by, I won't tell you the exact details, but it is by trying to help someone who calls for his help that he ends up sealing his fate. That's all I'll say. And again, it's the thing in tragedy, isn't it? If only. Think of Romeo and Juliet. If only the message wasn't intercepted. Yeah.
Only they didn't take the selfie.
If only they didn't take the selfie. That's a specific reference to the modern production that we saw. But yeah, that's what great Greek tragedy is. It's very often it's like if only that didn't happen.
The heroes are always trying to escape their fate, and in doing so, they seal them.
Okay, can you say that again? Say again.
The heroes are always trying to escape their fate, and in doing so, they seal their fate.
There we go.
Like in the most horrible way, and like damaging the most people along the way. Like,
And that's what makes it so tragic.
Like,
generally,
they avoid what they think is going to happen, but it turns out coming to the same ending.
Yeah.
But then to avoid it, they
it's like Oedipus is probably one of the most well-known examples. So Oedipus, of course. Tell us about Oedipus.
I could sing you a whole song
He's
about
given
it.
the fortune that he will marry his mother and kill his father, and so he then runs away from who he thinks his parents are, but what he doesn't know is they're actually his adopted parents, and that as he runs away from them, he actually ends up running towards and meeting his father on the road, who he kills, and then marrying the widow wife.
He could have just
And witty.
See, what we really learned is that communication is key in all relationships.
Yeah.
But tragic flaws, I agree, but tragic flaws can often prevent that happening, right? So, and then, I think it was Hannah who mentioned about, gods meddling with human affairs and vice versa. And yeah, obviously there's quite a lot of that there. Lita, a human, is meddling in by citing. Marion seems really, really angry about this.
I'm really angry about this. You know how invested I am in that series?
It's a long time away. This is volume 9. And I think they've only done volume 1 and 2 in the story so far. So there's still a long way to go. Anyway, so
If I had a hit list, you'd be on it.
I think that's my cue to get out of this seat. But you can see he alludes. There's the allusions, right? He by sticking so closely to the tropes of classic Greek literature, he weaves this very, very powerful story. And I'm now going to vacate because Marianne is staring daggers at me. So who would like to come in this seat next to talk about one of the stories? Right, who said they...
I'll go.
Yes, Marianne, come on in and... I will swap seats.
That's the only one I know.
No, I won't. I'm going to do this one.
No, that's mine.
Okay, we can talk. Multiple people can talk about the same book.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We all have different perspectives.
Absolutely.
You can give us a
Absolutely.
fresh.
This is the best book ever, and everyone should read it. Okay. Anyway,
Expected, now it's
Okay, one at a time. We can have several people talk about it, but one at a time, please. Marianne, you're in the seats. Go.
okay. No, I've already talked about Good Omens. That's all I have to say.
What's that?
Well, it sums it up pretty easily, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Well, remind us why is it the best book ever? In
It's
just a few
incredibly well.
Josie and I were gonna.
Josie, they've got a whole thing. I'm going to talk about Stardust,
sentences. Oh, okay,
which is
sure.
another
Stardust.
one of my favourite ones, and it's a bit too not gay for me, but
Yeah.
I have that fulfilled with Good Omens. Okay, so Stardust is about a shooting star that falls to Earth, and 3 witches then try and find the star so that they can live forever or whatever. And then this other guy who's trying to impress his is his girlfriend? Are they
He's trying to call
His
her.
would-be girlfriend.
would-be girlfriend, and he's
Crush.
like, I'll go get you that star. And then he crosses the wall over to the fairy bit, magical area of the world. Ugh. Yeah, and then he crosses over into fairyland, and then he finds the star. And then he goes.
America. You made it America.
You had me for
Like, you know
It's
the
like
film, I'm
Edwardian
so
England.
confused what time period it was
Dramatic
set
effect.
in. Like,
It's quite old.
Edwardian.
Yeah, it's like early 1900s, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and then he goes over into the magical area. He goes over a very specific stone wall, which doesn't look. It looks incredibly inconspicuous, but it actually isn't. And he crosses it over, and then he goes into the magical world, and then they finds the shooting fallen star, and then he travels back. They run into some villains along the way and whatever. There are some other minor plot points, and then he crosses back over the wall, like because he promises would-be GF that like he'll do it within a specific time span, and then he gets back just in time, but then the shooting star, fallen star, can't go back over the wall, and then there's this whole thing, and then they kiss and live happily ever after. Anyway, it is an incredibly good book. It's such a good movie. I love it so much because it's such an interesting concept, like a fallen star on Earth, and then the fallen star is a human or anthropomorphic, and it's just no one else could have thought of that apart from Neil Gaiman, and I love him for it. Thank you, Neil Gaiman, for writing one of my favourite comfort movies. It's very good with a cup of tea and some crochet.
Thank you.
I wonder if it's like mad that like you took the star.
Is there anyone else who's seen or read? What do we think?
Better let me.
Oh,
Okay.
sibling rivalry. Oh,
Mummy has some remus.
That was
Okay,
quite-
Phoebe.
that's quite
Better not
assertive,
talk
Phoebe.
about my one.
that's an extreme example of
Alright,
sibling
okay,
rivalry. I don't
alright.
think is applicable in this situation.
She can talk
Order,
about Star
order,
Wars. She wants
calm
to
down.
talk about
Okay,
something
one at a
else.
time. So,
Okay, well, I watched Stardust when I was very young, and I may sometimes have nightmares about it. But
Fair enough.
About the witches, because they were freaky. But but it's a very, very good story, and it is forever in my heart.
It is
It's-
also forever in my heart.
and what did you want to say?
Oh, I'm talking about Norse mythology.
Oh,
like the
okay.
book.
Oh, yes, that's
I
a good
love
one.
that book.
Yes, we have. That's out on loan at the moment.
Is it?
It's
Is
not
it?
on the table. Sorry.
I have it at home, but I
You
forgot
can-
I read it, and
You can
it
talk
was-
about it, definitely. So Stardust, of course, is fairy tales.
Yeah.
We're talking about classics.
Yeah.
Sandman, Good Omens. I don't know if there's anything.
Oh yeah, there's also one more thing I would like to talk about, and that is Neil Gaiman's activity on Tumblr. I just want to draw everyone's attention to it, including you. Just everyone should be aware that Neil Gaiman is incredibly active on Tumblr, and it's really, really, really funny because there's quite a few in-jokes. Like, one of my favourites is whenever anyone asks for plot spoilers for an upcoming season, he has this made-up plot story that he tells everyone where Aziraphale and Crowley get married to Dottie and what's the other one? Sandy, and they live happily in the 50s together.
That sounds like he likes reading mischief.
I love him so much.
Yeah.
I also saw him talk at the South Bank Centre. It was online, but he was there in physical person. I just wasn't there in physical person.
Well, what else would he have been? Like,
I don't know. It could have been like
in
a
the computer,
like a Zoom call, and I was at the South Bank Centre watching the Zoom call. No, it was the other way around. He was at the South Bank Centre. Some people were physically there. I was on Zoom. And anyway, it was really interesting because he was talking about why literature is so important and why stories are so important for like society we are today. And it was really interesting. And I'm going to be real, I can't remember like any specifics because I was very tired when I watched it. But he's an incredible speaker. The other person he was with was also an incredible speaker and reminded me a bit of Miss Huntley, and it was a bit creepy. Not creepy, freaky.
You can't remember who it was.
It was Something's identical twin. She's called.
Was it another writer?
It was another writer who was one of his longtime friends.
Diana Wynne Jones. Depends when this was. Because Diana Wynne Jones is.
It was a few months ago.
No. Oh, it wouldn't be Diana Wynne Jones.
And she was also incredibly interesting.
See if you can find out.
Yeah, I think I've got a confirmation email on my phone or iPad. So
Okay, maybe
have a little.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Marianne. Thank you very much. Right. Who is next? Yes, by all means. Come on over. Graveyard book. Good choice.
Okay, so I read this book a while ago. I don't think I actually finished it, but you know.
Anyone else read this one?
I read the start.
I haven't read it.
I've read it. Am I the only one?
I started
I read it
it,
like a while back, but I don't remember.
but then I started reading something else, and it kind of
But
just
to be
got
fair-
forgotten.
Okay. Well, tell us what you do remember.
Okay, so I remember that the main character was a boy. He was called Nobody. and he was in a graveyard. So he lived in a graveyard,
Yes.
and he couldn't come out.
Why did he live in a graveyard?
You're telling me
Am I the only? Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I'm not. I'm not going to tell you.
He's fulfilling the niche in the UK system.
I forgot. But
The reason,
isn't
the reason he lives in the graveyard is because his parents
odd.
were murdered
Yeah.
by the man Jack.
Yeah, the man Jack. So I remember at the start, he went in with a sword and he like stabbed a baby in the heart, and it made me cry because I started reading it when I was about 7, and then I started reading it again when I was like,
Who was stabbed?
this little baby.
Wait, but
No, he's the
one who isn't stabbed, I
yeah,
thought.
it's the parents who were stabbed.
No, but they.
Wait, but he
they-
doesn't have
He was
to.
no. Okay.
Anyway, move on.
He was about to kill the baby, and then he was like, "No, this baby's too cute. I can't kill the baby. I'm gonna take the baby."
Move on.
Anyways, yeah, and so like, well, we call him Bod, even though his name's Nobody. I mean, it's a bit of a nickname. Anyways, so he tries to get out of the graveyard because he's not allowed out, and he comes into contact with quite a few people, and he doesn't really know what to do in like civilization.
Okay. Now, do you know the graveyard book? So we were talking about how he alludes to, talk about how the kindly ones. What is the graveyard book? Do you know what it's based on?
A graveyard?
The Jungle Book.
Correct. It's
The
based
Jungle
on,
Book!
Based on the Jungle Book. So
No way.
the man
Oh, 'cause
Jack
he's
is
like-
Shere Khan.
Oh my
and
god!
Then, and then all of the adventures he does are kind of reminiscent of the ones that Mowgli underwent in the Jungle Book. If you read
I
the
can
author's
see
note
that.
at the back, he does actually say, "I really love the Jungle Book," and this is his tribute to the Jungle Book, essentially.
He was
Where?
raised
But it's a very Neil Gaiman way. It's gothic.
I love the Jungle Book.
There you go.
The
And that's-
Jungle Book has no stabbing
Neil Gaiman.
babies, but it does.
Yep.
There's a few stabby baby bits.
But that's like it's not humans.
Well, Shere Khan, he's a menace, and the man Jack is the menace here. But it's
Yeah, but they're
also
but
about the
they're
adventures in the
personified
jungle or the
animals.
graveyard.
So
as
they're
it is.
basically humans.
So,
I guess.
and
And
this
Yeah.
this won the Carnegie Medal
Exactly.
as well, by the way.
There
Back
was a
2010.
illustration. There are like a few illustrations
Do you
in
know who
here.
the illustrator is?
Christian.
Yeah.
Christian.
Oh, that's the
Look, there's like the
Dual identity.
Like
Goth
Goth
Girl.
Girl.
Coraline.
Go on, Miss Humphries, go tell everyone.
Goth girl.
Okay,
I've
so
read it.
You're gonna
Goth
bring up-
Girl. No, I said Otterline before. I said Goth
gonna happen.
Girl.
So
No, there were loads of Goth girls.
anyway,
Goth Girl.
this book is good, but I don't think I finished it, so I wouldn't say it was the best book ever. But I feel like it is good, and I probably would have liked it if it had no stabbing babies at the start.
I see. Okay.
And also,
Actually read like
credit to my brother. He read this and he really liked it. So
Can
you
you
should
just say,
probably read
for the
that.
benefit of the camera, what book it is?
Oh, Fortunately the Milk.
And do you know what the basic plotline of that is?
No.
No heckling.
It's very, very silly.
Yeah,
Can I
my
do
brother
it?
told me
Very
it was
silly.
bonkers, and I was just like, okay then, that sounds good.
Marianne?
We have actually done it quite a few times in Litsoc before because it's that great and everyone should read it. It's about a dad who goes out to get some milk and then he goes on this massive adventure. There's some volcanoes at one point. I think there's a hot air balloon. And then he comes back with the milk.
Is it like a play on Dad goes out to get the
The milk and never comes back.
Basically, yeah. Only he did legitimately end up in a hot air balloon surrounded by pirates
I saw this
and
thing.
intergalactic.
I saw this thing and it was like
And
1%
it's
of
definitely
all
about Neil
people's
Gaiman.
dads
Okay, no.
can't leave
It is
and
definitely
for the
Neil
milk
Gaiman
and never
because
come
the
back.
main character of
Like
that is
one,
based on
a
Neil
whole
Gaiman.
1%.
Well, I think it's
And the
more than
illustrator
that.
is, of course, Chris Riddell. So there you go. Thank you.
Right, he's
Yeah, who's
going.
next?
Who's next?
Phoebe?
Phoebe's going
Yeah.
next.
I've also
Uh,
read this book.
We don't have the book here. It's Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, and
I love that one.
so good. I think it's really good. I love the writing style. It's amazing. If you read the introduction at the start, it says that he was first introduced to Norse mythology through the Marvel comics. I think probably where he got his like mixing Greek mythology thing from is probably Marvel, because honestly, like when I first like heard of like Loki and Thor and stuff, I was so confused. I was like, why are they like this, then this is not true to the myths. But yeah, so I love the book. I think Loki is the best character just because he is so funny and a bit mad.
Favourite Loki fact? Favourite Loki adventure? Favourite Loki thing he did in Norse mythology?
Ooh, probably
Oh, I love that one!
wedding dress! Probably the giant making the wall one.
Oh yeah, I do love that one.
Where he does.
I like the one where he gives birth to a horse.
Yeah, that's the
a
one
good
where he
one.
gives birth to the horse because the giant makes the wall, but he wants to, Loki has to stop him because otherwise they have to pay do something like let him live in Asgard or like pay him or something, or let him marry another Freya, I think, probably.
Everyone just always wants to marry Freya.
Everyone wants to marry Freya.
If someone wants to marry someone, assume it's Freya.
But so Loki like made the deal with him. So the god said that if it actually happens, then like Loki gets like cast out or something. So Loki goes and has a child with the horse.
Because that's Loki.
Yeah, and it's eight-legged.
It's the eight-legged horse that is Odin's.
Odin's eight-legged horse. Can't remember his name, but you know, it starts with an S and a V. Sleipnir.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, almost had
That's
it.
what you were going to say.
Oh, damn it.
So why is this for you why do you enjoy it so much? Why is this instead of any other Norse myths retelling/telling?
Well, I just love how it's told. I like the writing style. I think his writing style is great. It's very like, it's like telling a story, but more like you're hearing a story being told. Like it's kind of more like informal than someone writing super like fancy like this. But anyway, yeah, I think his writing is very good, and it kind of resembles Percy Jackson and the Greek gods.
Or do you think he drew inspiration from Rick Riordan?
I don't know
Let's
when
be
it was
real,
written,
Neil
so
Gaiman,
I
yes.
don't.
He borrows from everything.
I
Gets from everywhere.
I
He
don't
alludes
know
to everything.
when it was written, so it might.
After the first Percy Jackson came out
Yeah.
back in like 2010.
Yeah.
But the Greek gods and the
when-
Greek
when
heroes
did
are like
the
set in
way
between
later.
But when
the main
Probably
stories
before
and
this.
heroes of
Come out.
Olympus.
Because it's only a few years old, isn't it? This
I
Neil
love that.
Gaiman, probably 2018, 2019, something like
I
that.
don't know.
So-
But yeah, I think Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology is amazing, and everyone should read it. I have read like half of Good Omens, and I read it. I started reading it in the summer holidays, and I never finished reading it.
Finished it.
Okay, I started reading it like halfway through the. Okay. I started reading it at the end of the summer holidays, and then I needed to give it back to the library. So
it's Mr. Humphrey's fault.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not my fault.
Annabelle, you had your hand up for a while there.
Okay, so when you mentioned Percy Jackson, I just needed to state
Yes.
that me and Alyssa have a little bit of a rivalry.
She hates it.
So I do not like Percy Jackson.
She hasn't even read it.
You
She hasn't even
realise
She hasn't even read it.
You haven't even read it.
I haven't even read it. I mean,
I don't like Greek myths.
Since the Heartstopper.
Oh,
Since
you
the
don't
Heartstopper
like-
sound.
you haven't
Since
even
the
read it.
Heartstopper-
You haven't even read it.
Let
Wait.
us speak, please. Don't listen
Okay.
to it like this.
So I do not like Greek mythology. I think it's a bit. Ugh. And then I have read little bits of Percy Jackson. I've also heard my brother talk about it a lot, and I've heard Alyssa talk about it so much. She could literally write a season as long as Friends about it.
I think
Annabelle,
you just need to get
I
to it
think
first.
you need to read the room. I don't know if you've noticed, you are surrounded by fantasy here.
Yeah.
And they'll know your crowd.
Greek mythology is probably not what I would advise you
This
saying.
honestly
But I
distresses me.
Alyssa knows what she's talking about.
Because Alyssa doesn't read They Both Die at the End.
I
So
haven't. I haven't read
I'm
it.
sorry, that doesn't.
Where does that
sense. Right, let's just calm down. Let's thank Phoebe first of all. Phoebe, thank you very much for your contribution. And Esther, did you want to go next? I don't know if you wanted to add anything or talk about something else.
I can add about my favourite Norse myth.
Go for it.
Okay, go on. I need something to
Yeah.
cleanse my palate off.
Annabelle's diversity essentially for me, which is
My favourite Norse myth is the one where is it like when the giants like they steal Thor's
Power.
hammer, and then Loki and Thor have to go to the hall and they dress up Loki as Freya. Of course it's Freya. Of course it's Freya. It's marriage. It's got to be Freya. So they don't want to give over Freya and exchange Freya for the hammer. So they dress up Loki as Freya. No, they dress up Thor as Freya and Loki as like, I don't know, like, you know, Thor gets dressed up as Freya, which is, you know, a bit weird considering he's literally the god of war. Like, why would you dress up the god of war? Like, it just doesn't work.
Again, it's supposed to be chaotic, isn't it? Loki.
You know, it's chaotic, of course. And
it worked.
It does work. Yeah. You know, they get the hammer back. It works. They are obviously convinced that Thor is Freya. Somehow.
Okay.
Oh, I love the one where Loki actually has to marry Angrboda. I think that's the greatest one because they have like the whole like flying back and forth with the like transforming into birds and it's amazing. It's wonderful.
I think the recurring theme here is Loki.
Yeah.
It's all about Loki.
Loki just makes everything better because he's just a bit chaotic.
I feel like
It's
Loki was the cause of most of the
folks.
myths. Loki was like the thing that made everything happen.
You were just full of
But
controversy.
that is from Greek myth.
I know.
Yeah.
Without Greek
Greek
myth,
myth.
no Loki, no Thor. Or myth in general, I should say, not Greek myth.
Yeah, but
Norse myth.
You need to recycling.
Without Greek myth.
I like Marvel.
Okay, so who would like to go next?
They look physically painful.
Doesn't make it better.
Can we do this together?
Of course you can. So,
Okay.
you can stay there, can't you? Because unless you wanted to squeeze into the armchair with it. Right, Good Omens. Good Omens. I knew that someone
What everyone's been
was gonna
waiting
talk
for,
about
right? Yeah.
Woo! Watch the series.
You watched it. Who else has read it?
I've read half of it.
I listened to like 3 chapters.
I've listened to about like. I'm gonna do
We
this.
also want to make it clear that this was a co-authorship with the Great Terry Pratchett.
Yes.
Let's make that clear first of all.
Terry Pratchett,
I think-
my man.
Yeah, I think what makes Good Omens so great is Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett put together. I think it's Terry Pratchett's humour put with Neil Gaiman's like world building, which makes
And really eclectic writing styles. Both of them. They have very unique writing styles, and combined it's just.
Yeah. And like reading in the back of, or like it was the beginning or something, about how they work together. Like the process sounds so interesting of it itself. Like they would spend hours and hours and hours on the phone. They would try and imitate each other's styles and just like build up the story and like tear it back down again. And it was like a whole years long process that like, yeah, just sounds like great fun to be part of and produce this.
So, anyone not familiar with Good Omens?
Not much.
Okay, do you want to just give a brief overview what the premise is?
Should I read the blurb?
If you want to.
Here. So, according to the nice and accurate prophecies of Agnes Nutter, which, the world's only totally reliable guide to the future, written in 1655, before she exploded, the world will end on a Saturday. Next Saturday, in fact, just after tea. People have been predicting the end of the world almost from its beginning, so it's only natural to be sceptical when a new date is set for Judgment Day. This time, though, the armies of good and evil really do appear to be massing. The 4 bikers of the apocalypse are hitting the road, but both the angels and demons, well, one fast-living demon and a somewhat fussy angel, would quite like the rapture not to happen, and someone seems to have misplaced the Antichrist.
So the main topic of the book is the friendship, more than friendship, between between an angel and a demon, Crowley and Aziraphale. So
Played by David Tennant and Michael Sheen.
Yes.
Loves of my.
So at first you would be like, how does that work as like a friendship? They're completely opposed to values, but the dynamics are just so interesting. Yeah.
You start to realise that they both kind of they both report back to hell and heaven, and you both realise that neither of them are that great, and they're also not run very well, so they realise that why should they have to individually carry out their tasks because no one's checking who's doing them, so they start switching tasks and helping each other out throughout history, and so that kind
Really
of
long
builds it up. And so when Crowley is the one who's meant to be hello.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was more gonna come in later, but because of the throughout history thing, you get a lot of allusions. There's Noah, Shakespeare appears at one point. It's all over the place.
The French Revolution.
Yeah, and it's what he does.
All of history, like, that's so good.
So Crowley is given the task of putting the Antichrist and swapping the child. They get the wrong child. So they try and raise this child as like these nanny figures to make sure that nanny and gardener to try and make sure that the Antichrist is normal, because they think if the forces of heaven and hell are acting on the Antichrist, then he'll stay normal. Then they realise 11 days prior to the apocalypse that they've got the wrong person when the hellhound goes to someone else.
And when you get the actual Antichrist and his friendship group, it's so funny. They're like these tween 10-11-year-olds, and they're just so typical of
10-11-year-olds.
They're kind of mean to each other, but it's
and they have such a funny group. And the girl, what's her name? She's so funny.
I love the girl. She's the best character, honestly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Pepper. Oh, it's so good in the TV show as well. And there was a season 2 recently.
Yeah, I haven't watched season 2 yet.
Season 2, I believe, is not. Season 1 is basically that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Season 2
is the build up to season 3.
It
develops
supposed to be a book series,
going to be a season.
but then Terry Pratchett died.
Yeah, so Neil Gaiman said that there was plans potentially for a sequel for Good Omens.
Oh, I see. So,
And
it's
so
based on that.
it took them.
Season 3 will be the sequel. Because season 2 was the build up to the sequel.
What was potentially to be the sequel.
Okay.
And there's been some rumours that the third season will be the second coming of Christ.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Rumours.
Is it Tumblr?
This is a mixture of Tumblr and Twitter. But
Such reliable sources.
Hey. If they're the only sources you get, they are reliable.
Neil himself on Twitter, that's his handle. You know, he is a good source of information. He does. I would say.
But it was a bit touch and go because of the SAG-AFTRA strike, so they couldn't renew. Amazon couldn't confirm that they were renewing it for quite a while. But we are getting a season 3, and it will be the sequel to the first book.
Ooh.
Okay,
That's really
interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend the book as well. Even if you've watched the series, the book, the writing is just hilarious.
You just get so I think
a depth.
Especially one of the first scenes, they get really drunk and start talking nonsense. But in the TV show, it's cut severely short, and in the book, you just get more and more of it, and it's just so much funnier so the best bits aren't there, and in the book, you get just so much more.
And it's silly and ridiculous, but it's also very intelligent. Isn't it? That's the appealing thing about it. We got big Terry Pratchett fans around here as well. Yeah. Anyone read Discworld, for instance? Discworld is the ultimate. That's his. And Discworld, those of you who don't know, it's his magnum opus. It's his huge epic fantasy series, which is set on the eponymous Discworld. That is a floating disc on the back of an elephant, on
a turtle.
Or a turtle.
I think it's elephant and a turtle.
Elephants and turtles. Is it a turtle or a skull?
I think.
An elephant?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I thought there were a couple of elephants and one giant turtle.
Yeah, it could well be. It's been a long time since I've read them, but it sounds so silly, and the characters are a bit daft, but it's also just so clever and just so well put together and brilliant. And so when you have two geniuses put together like that, that's the magic they produce. Because it is, it's about the biggest thing in humanity. Some would argue the apocalypse, the end of the world, and the unlikely allies who are working together to thwart the end of the world, because actually it's in their interest, even though they're supposedly ideologically opposed. Instead, we have this epic, more than friendship between them.
Good friends.
So there we go. So thank you very much, both of you. Anyone want to add anything? Yes, Marianne?
I would just like to say, for those who haven't watched season 2, you should, because God, I cried so much. I watched it in one day.
Sounds sad. Is it sad?
In one day?
One day.
Oh my gosh.
One day.
Yeah, you're okay.
This is about 8 hours of straight Good Omens. It was that good.
I feel like...
Good Omens.
That's why I didn't
and it was,
I don't think it's that straight.
It was, oh my God, it was incredible, because they have the main plot, and then you have mini episodes in between in which history occurs. And my favourite is definitely the Job from the Bible.
I like
Is that David Tennant?
There's illusions again, see?
Exactly, with Bildad the Shuhite.
I love him so much with his signal glasses.
Yeah. That's definitely my favourite mini episode, in which, because it's both so silly, and it's very obviously incredibly silly, and also David Tennant's son features in it, and then it's an incredibly funny dynamic. but it's also so it's so revealing of heaven and hell, and how they're both kind of so aligned into what they're doing, and it's Aziraphale's first steps into realizing that heaven is not the Almighty. It is not what he does not think what they are doing is what is right, even if it is what God is saying, and it's kind of his first steps into that. And Crowley's just kind of sitting there going, "Yeah, babes, come on, we all had this. Like, you got to eat some ribs now." And then there's this really weird scene where he dives into these ribs, and I assume they're really good ribs, but it's so good, and it's just so simultaneously silly and fun, but so intellectual and deep, and there are so many different ways you can look at it, and there's so many different levels to it, and it's just, everyone should watch it, everyone should read it, everyone should read and watch all of his stuff. I love it all. He's incredible. Thank you.
There we go. Yes.
Has anyone watched Staged?
Yeah.
Yes! So good.
It's on iPlayer, isn't it?
So
Like,
good.
Yeah,
it's
I actually
good.
love Staged.
It's my comfort.
It's
like
so good.
10-minute
funny.
for those who don't know, 10-minute long episodes where they talk to each other over Zoom.
Yeah.
There's David
It's
Tennant
in
and Charlie Sheen,
lockdown.
and they play exaggerated versions of themselves, and it's just very, very funny, but also surprisingly moving in places too. Some of the things that happen. But yeah, it was great lockdown viewing, and it remains good
post-lockdown
viewing
loading.
now.
Yeah. I
So, yeah.
didn't watch it in lockdown.
We were in year
recently.
6.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
I think I better wrap things up. So, Jess, you can say if you want to. I'm just gonna.
Can I just reference one?
Oh yeah, please can. Sorry. Go on. Go for it.
I just wanted to reference Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Oh yes, go on. Go for it.
It's kind of a fantasy story about how a man goes back to thinking about his childhood and this weird experience that he has where he meets this girl called Letty and her family who are able to control magic, and he has this whole thing that his dad's struggling because her mum's no longer around, and then there's this magical creature who takes his place as his stepmom. I think it's quite. I think the amazing thing that Neil Gaiman manages to do is mix these fantastical themes with very real and human emotions. I think one of the big themes I found in Ocean at the End of the Lane is grief and how people experience that, and the toll it takes on people.
And we've alluded to that before with some other things.
And so, yeah.
And the ocean at the end of the lane, what does that refer to? Because you talk about the fantastical versus the real.
So there's this lake which, when it's set, when it's just, I think just before his 13th birthday, I think they describe this lake as being this ocean that they can explore together. Yeah.
And of course, you mentioned the fantastical. So the main character, he is of this world, but he is, I can't remember her name, the girl who's from the other world. Letty, thank you. And they essentially, it's like the blurring of boundaries in two worlds, and the darkness intrudes upon as well. And it's like you're dealing with that, and this is what he does. He sort of, as you say, he mixes the fantastical and the realistic very well. It's not these stories, whilst there's a lot of high fantasy in them, as you say, they're not completely divorced from our real life everyday experience. So yeah, and of course, Ocean at the End of the Lane is one that this school has gone to see in the theatre as well.
I went
Did
to
anyone
see
go
it.
to see that?
Yeah, I wrote for it in my drama at GCSE.
Was it good?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but I've heard it's brilliant.
I went to go see
I'm not
Wicked
sure it's still on
instead.
or not. See what, sorry?
I went to go see Wicked instead.
Okay, fair enough. That's all right. So thank you, Josie. Are there any things? So we've got Coraline, American Gods, Neverwhere. Anyone want to talk about any of those? Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, on the fact that some of his books are a bit bonkers, Fortunately the Mill, I'm reading a really bonkers book.
Is it to do with Neil Gaiman?
No.
Is it Heartstopper?
No.
No, let's not go there.
Okay,
sorry.
It's called The Convenience Woman.
Oh,
I love that one.
yes.
And it's about the one who falls in love with the supermarket.
She doesn't really fall in love with
It's
it.
Well, is it sci-fi? It kind of is.
I don't know what
it's kind of
Fantasy.
It's
quite
not
funny.
really fantasy. I really enjoyed it. It's about this woman who feels she has no purpose other than outside of a convenience store, and really struggles to fit into society without the structured rules that you get in the
Whilst-
supermarket, like when you're training to be like a retail person, you know how you have like set things you have to do,
Inductions.
Set things you have
inductions,
to
the things you
say.
like. Yeah, exactly. And she really struggles to find purpose outside of that because she doesn't kind of get how to live like a real person.
Okay.
And it's kind of her journey, like it is slightly like it's not real life. But it's very like heightened,
Yeah.
but it's kind of about not feeling like you fit in anywhere and like struggling to find the rules to navigate society. And it's just I felt it really like
Feelings of alienation. Almost.
and it was really, really interesting to read. It was a very good read.
She's Japanese, isn't she?
Yes.
And I think there's a bit of tradition in this. Is something I've seen in other Japanese literature, like Murakami. Have you heard of Haruki Murakami?
Yeah.
He does this as well with things like The Wind Murder Chronicle, Kafka on the Shore, which is very Kafka-esque. And Kafka is another one who's a bit bonkers as well, incidentally. So I think we have her books over there. So there's that and there's Earthlings. I think I'm thinking of that one when I was talking about sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
So those are her two most famous. She might have done more, but those. So yeah. So I imagine yes, bonkers, but also some high end
There's
stuff.
there's if you look into it, there's like a very like there's a very like deep feeling that I think everyone could relate to on some level, because it's just so human to feel that way. I feel.
Okay. And I imagine, Earthlings, probably referring to us. Okay, thank you both. Right.
Anyway, that was completely off topic.
I'm just going to, no, it's fine. It's what we do in Litsoc. I'm just going to finish up because I just want to draw attention to something, build on rather something Marianne said earlier. So Neil Gaiman, as I've just said, he does deal with our real world concerns too. And you might not know this, but he is an ambassador for the UNHCR. Which is the UN Refugee Agency. And he wrote a poem a few years ago, and it has just been published in its own volume, What You Need to Be Warm. Now, I'm not going to read it, because you may remember I actually read it at another Litsoc. But, you have the right to be here is how it ends. Yeah, and he does great work on making, because obviously, the refugee crisis is something that's very real. He does great work there. And in terms of building on what Marianne was saying earlier, about how, he says, encourages people to create stuff, this is a great book he wrote. It's called Art Matters, and it's all about, be bold, be rebellious, choose art, it matters. Okay, and again, I'm not going to read through it. I'm just going to draw your attention to this quote. The world always seems brighter when you just made something that wasn't there before. Our art. Yes?
I just wanted to say that I was listening to a talk that he, online, from YouTube, what he did at the British Library, and he was just saying that, one of his dreams when he was asked by the Crows people at his school what to do, and he said, I want to make comic books, and he basically got laughed in his face. And it's if you look how successful he is now with Sandman and everything.
Exactly.
Don't stop chasing your dreams.
Yes, precisely. Because without those dreams, we're not going to get this great art, and great art is pinnacle of life, what makes life worth living. So, and that is why we love Neil Gaiman so much, right? So thank you, Neil.
Woo!
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, everyone. So we'll see you again next week. In the meantime,
yes.
Bye, everyone. Bye.